The very first Manitoba Podcast Festival goes down International Podcast Day, Sunday, September 30th, 12 to 4 p.m. at the Park Theatre. Manitoba's podcast community gathers for an afternoon of networking, education, and so much more, featuring local podcast hosts, producers, radio personalities, taking part in panel discussions and Q&As. Take part in this fantastic networking opportunity. You can like us on Facebook at Manitoba Podcast Festival. Tickets are just $5. The very first Manitoba Podcast Festival, Sunday, September 30th at the Park Theatre.
Thank you to everyone who supports my dad's show. If you'd like to support Witchpolice Radio, go to patreon.com/witchpolice today.
You're listening to Garbage Hill, Winnipeg's first podcast network.
Welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I am on a patio in St. James with, this is 2/3 of the band, is that right?
Yes.
2/3 of Omerta. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe just a good way to get started because, there's three of us here. Do you want to just introduce yourselves and what you play in the band, and then we'll put a name to the voice? Listeners can put a name to the voice. Sure.
I'm Dale McIntyre, I'm the guitarist.
And I'm Scott Beatty, and I do drums and vocals.
And who are we missing?
Spencer Bauer for bass.
Okay, cool. And am I correct in saying that you guys had a previous name and switched fairly recently?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Me and Scott have been playing together for a really long time,
Okay.
and had tried to have a lot of different bands that we couldn't seem to really get a jive going with it. And then finally, once we really did, we decided that it wasn't anything like the past has been, and it's a new band and new songs and a new everything, really.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the old name was like an umbrella term for all of our various attempts at making a cool band.
Yeah.
Was it always the same three members, or was it just the two of you and other people, or how did?
Two of us and other people.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
And so, what was the sound that you were trying to get with all those previous incarnations? Like,
We didn't know.
you didn't.
That's really what it comes down to.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We'd discover a new artist every couple months. Be like, oh, let's do that for a bit.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we'd flip flop, and we always went back to like freaky, styly Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is hilarious in retrospect with what we play now.
Right. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So, what do you? I mean, this is a question I hate asking and everyone hates answering. But how do you describe what you do now? Because it's so hard with so many subgenres of subgenres.
Yeah.
And no one likes to pin it
We'll
down.
give you
but-
another one.
Yeah.
Bastard rock.
Bastard rock. Okay. That's the official term.
That's our official term. Yeah.
So what? For people who are unfamiliar with bastard rock, are there other artists you can point to that you kind of draw influences from, or that people would kind of place it alongside?
Yeah, I think it would follow beside probably like Death from Above for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Royal Blood maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we kind of have like a Queens of Stone Age vibe.
Okay. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few different kind of sounds that I find a lot of rock seems to fall under a lot of the time.
definitely.
And I mean, there's bands that are killing it who sound just like whatever,
You know, like
AC/DC or
AC/DC, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Or
But-
Zeppelin or whatever.
Yeah. And I've just always found that our thing's a little bit outside of that box.
Yeah, it's-
and
But still within the rock, straight ahead rock
it's
and
like-
roll.
yeah.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
bit more moody and sassy, but
Right.
not like Evanescence moody.
Right.
Kind of-
Yeah. Did not tell that.
Yeah. Just darker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So it's actually I've noticed, and maybe it's just because I've been doing this like for the past few years that I've noticed more of this. But it seems like there's a lot of bands that are coming out that are playing kind of more straight ahead rock and roll. Whereas when I was in bands, which is like a decade ago now, it was a lot more like something hyphenated, right? I mean, there'd be bands playing things that are obviously rock, but it would be with some kind of influence that made it not rock, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it seems like now it's almost more okay for people to just be kind of going straight ahead, like just rock and roll, like some of the bands you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Even in the local scene, it's
That's what I mean,
developed a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Like the last 2 years, like a couple of years ago, sometimes it'd be a little bit of a struggle to find a band that would fit the bill really well.
Yeah,
and
sure.
then nowadays it's just like half of our buddies are doing stuff that's would pair quite nicely.
Yeah.
Cheese and wine.
absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think that is? Excuse me. What do you think the reason is behind that? Like, what changed to make rock okay to do?
I don't know. I think it might be like maybe a bit of a pushback against those things that ended up becoming so huge. I mean, like the folk rock thing really had its balloon, and I mean, a lot of those subgenres did too.
Yeah. Well, and locally, that's always been kind of an element that's been heavy in Winnipeg too, is the folk
thing.
Yeah.
Roots, anything rootsy, anything when you can play a ukulele to or a mandolin. Always been big.
Absolutely, and I'll always have a soft spot for that stuff too. But
maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just like some subconscious undertone that there is like a niche to be filled. I don't know.
Which is weird because it seems like the opposite of a niche, right? It seems like the biggest umbrella genre possible. But I guess it wasn't being served enough.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way. Yeah.
I don't know how old you guys are, but when I was first playing in bands, like when I was a teenager, it was like right at the tail end of the grunge thing, right? So I mean, that was what, mid 90s, everyone wanted to be in a rock band, basically.
And then Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, right, exactly. And you go a few years later and everyone's in punk bands, or everyone's in like whatever else, because it wasn't cool to, once that stuff ended, it was like whatever was coming out, it was, I don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah.
And then now it's like come full circle again, right? So it's weird. I don't know, that wasn't a question, but it's just like an observation. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a great observation,
So are there bands now that you feel, I think you mentioned before, that there are bands now you feel kind of a kinship with, like locally?
Yeah, locally especially. I mean, there's just, like Scott was saying, there's just so many local rock bands that are all absolutely killing it that literally didn't exist 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and it's amazing. I mean, we have a festival happening now just because these bands exist all of a sudden, and everyone wants them in one place, and that's really cool.
The audiences appeared out of nowhere too, just like the bands did, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our resources on listening to that kind of music also helps. I mean, we have streaming now, which,
thank you,
for better or worse.
Can I get you a
Can I shoot a glass of water, please?
Water? Yeah,
thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, for better or worse, is just introduces you to anything you want at any time you want.
Right.
So there's ridiculous cool artists even in Winnipeg who are doing genres I didn't know about 3 days ago.
Right, it may not have existed 3 days ago.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's interesting you say that, though, because I think that, like, the upside, there's two ways you can go with the streaming thing. You can either get yourself stuck in a niche and never leave it because you don't have to be exposed to anything else, or you can go as wide as possible and get to so much stuff. So it's kind of like 50-50.
Yeah.
Someone's going to just, like, find some obscure form of jazz, and they'll live in that forever.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I've been living in the same 3 albums for a year.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of, it's weird how that works, but...
Yeah, it is.
One of them's his own album, too.
Well, you want to make sure it's good, right? So when you were working on becoming the current incarnation of the band, what other kinds of styles were you kind of experimenting with that led to this?
I remember, for me, a huge turning point was... it was Scott introducing me to Queens of the Stone Age.
Okay.
I think he went to a metal show at the Rudolph or something one night, and he mentioned how it would be cool to play heavier music. And I just had no idea what he meant by that, and I was like, I don't want to play metal. Yeah. And then he's like, no, like there's this record that like you have to check out. Like, cool. I'm like, the band that does that No One Knows song.
Yeah, but, right.
That was the gatekeeper to Death from Above, Royal Blood, and I mean even as far back as now, like getting into Black Flag and like the real early influences of that music. Yeah. So that's been absolutely crucial in just like showing us where this came from to make it ourselves.
I feel like we just didn't feel cool enough playing it.
Okay.
We were playing it because we were trying to do something that was kind of funky, but like we weren't getting any horns behind us or anything. So we weren't really committing to that 110%.
Right.
And then the rock element would slip in every now and then Dale would bring a riff that was kind of pushing the edge of the rock catalog that we had, and then we would just continue to go down that rabbit hole. And found success in writing in that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's really easy to make funk rock sound lame too. Like it's one of those genres.
Really easy, as we found out.
Very tight, like, over and over. Yeah, for sure. It's interesting you mentioned Black Flag, though. I mean, I'm a huge Black Flag fan, and awesome. Just out of my own curiosity, what era of Black Flag are you talking about? Are you talking about like the fast punk stuff or the super sludgy like proto grunge stuff?
Yeah. That's the one I'm talking about.
I love that stuff. Yeah, like the My War and On kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you love it.
I think that's kind of a dividing line for people too. It's like, when someone says they like Black Flag, either they like
that's so true.
The first couple albums like with the other singers, or they like the Rollins, like super slow and sludgy stuff. And it's good. I'm glad you're on the right side of it.
Yeah, exactly. And Rollins too, like he's such a magnetic character. Like in general, it's just like, how can you not want to get into that?
Definitely. What is the just to completely switch subjects here? What's the significance behind the suspenders? Because I've seen them in photos of you guys as well, and you're both wearing them at the moment. So
honestly, for us, I think it just homogenizes things. It's just one less thing to think about because we're not good at that.
Right.
And it just makes it super easy. We go up and people just instantly know who it is.
And I guess they figure out who's who, which band if you're waiting to play, right? Because
exactly. And I mean, like I always associate music and art in general with colors a lot, and I really love artists that do that. I think like Jack White does a great job of that. So looking at like another band Scott really introduced me to, the White Stripes, and seeing Jack live on stage in that era, and everything just looks like a Coca-Cola brand or something, and there's something so easy to identify about it.
Okay. So is it part of like just? Are you guys interested in doing more of a visual element for your shows as well? Like, I mean, is it just this one aspect of it, or is this the only part that you do like that?
I think eventually, as we grow, we would like to add more production in there.
Okay.
Some of the rooms that we're playing now don't necessarily call for it, but
just size wise and stuff.
I'd love to have massive lights and strobes and everything.
Those are the funnest.
We've had a few good experiences with that at the Garrick Theater. So
that's the right size for that. For sure.
Yeah.
Not full on pyrotechnics, but not for off-road.
Exactly.
And how did you decide on the name? What is the significance of the name? I mean, Omerta to me, I got the mob connections, and but what's the X in front of it? How does that?
The X in front of it is more to me, anyways, the way I see it. It's more separate from the Omerta. It's just another thing. Like X, it's like moving on from something, finding who you are, and then. All the connotations with Omerta being we keep things within our own camp. We've done a lot on our own to get to where we are. And
so like a banishing of the name, and then this is the avenue and like the work ethic that we want to have moving forward. The frame of mind.
Okay, fair enough. It's funny that too. Like, I mean, it's not funny, but it's interesting that you mentioned the kind of that work ethic and the DIY thing and all that, because I think that rock as a umbrella genre is often maligned as being not that. Like, I mean, because like hardcore bands, it's just a given that they're doing everything DIY, and whereas people playing more radio-friendly music, I guess you could say, it's almost seen as a slight. It's like, you're not doing this yourself. You obviously have someone. So does that play into anything at all for you guys, or do you kind of go at things from a punk sort of perspective, even if you're not a punk band?
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, we I don't know if you saw the Are You Ready for What's Coming video, but like that was like all us. That was us building a logo, hauling it out 2 kilometers onto Lake Winnipeg in the middle of the winter at 2 a.m. when no one would know we were doing this, and filming it and burning it for several hours.
Doing it cameras are so easy.
Yeah.
Now they
exactly.
Just press a button.
Exactly. So like that ethos of doing it ourselves, it just lets us keep the creative control. I mean, I feel like kind of the more people you get involved in a creative process, the easier it is to lose sight of what you started with.
Absolutely, yeah.
And for us, it's kind of one of those miracles that all 3 of us can see the same end goal when we do something.
Okay.
So that's been another huge bonus of just having that DIY ethic.
Cool.
Yeah, and I also don't think that nowadays, like, there's so much music out there. Like, there's so many people that are trying to do it, as there always has been. You have to kind of assert what you are and who you are before you bring in anybody on the outside.
Well, I guess because they've always been there, but now it's just more in your face, right? You're exposed to everything rather than having to seek it out. So
absolutely.
So is that, I mean, things like that video, is that what you guys are trying to do to kind of get your heads above the crowd, sort of thing, like to...
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, one of many.
Probably talking about the release now.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure, you go ahead. That's a good
segue. We put out a music video that we produced ourselves for our first song, Are You Ready for What's Coming? And now we're moving on to our second single, and that's going to be called Sink In, and we're going to be releasing that the end of August or so.
Just a single?
Just a single, And then we're still kind of brainstorming the strategies we want to use for the rest of 2018 and then moving into 2019. But we want to start definitely generating more and more content frequently.
Yeah. It has a music video that is... We just want it done right when we release it.
Sure.
Because there was a lot that went into it, time-wise, energy-wise, and obviously financially too.
Well, yeah, especially if you're DIYing it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the Mitchell brothers at Bandits Media, they're the ones who directed that one and pulled it off for us, and it just
they did a great job.
Cool. And that's why we're kind of protecting it like a baby right now. We're like, okay, this baby has to go out and not get hurt by anybody.
Sure. Until it's finally unleashed. Whatever happens to it happens to it.
Exactly. Yeah, you're a dad.
Yeah, exactly. It's grown up. It's done. Yeah, you're good. You did your job. So, what is the reasoning, I guess, on your part for just going with the singles? Is it because you don't have a larger project finished yet, or are you actually like strategically releasing individual tracks?
We have a lot of material ready to go.
Okay. Thank you.
And we're just playing it a little safe for now with putting it out there, because a lot of resources went into making all of it, and it's.
I think we're good for now.
We're good for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just, so a lot of things that we worked really hard on making, and we feel are a culmination of all of our effort. We feel like it really represents us, so we just want to get it out to the biggest audience we can.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of where I was going with the question too is, like, I'm assuming you're just releasing this digitally, right? Or is it actually a physical single?
It'll be exclusively digital for now, and then if we do decide to go the route of like manufacturing anything, we'll choose probably one or both of these first two songs, and then a few of the successive singles that come out afterwards.
It's the longest thing, far from habit, far from us. You're the kindest thing. Don't get too close, don't get. I can't see how this is happening. I can see how this happened to hurt me. I can see how this happened to hurt me. Darker night when I play pretend on my own. You put the kindest fight, but I guess you never know. I can't see how this is happening to me. I can't see how this happened to hurt me. I can see how this happened to hurt me. See how this happening to hurt me. I can see how this happening to hurt me. I can see how this happening to hurt me.
How do you guys consume music personally? Like, are you full-on digital music guys, or both of you?
Yeah.
I've never purchased a vinyl.
Really?
No.
Okay. What about CDs and tapes and stuff? Like,
I missed the tape.
Okay. Yeah.
And then like the first CD I ever bought was like American Idiot.
Okay. Which is fairly recent, I guess, in the scheme of things.
Yeah, it's like grade 6 or something.
Right,
and then I bought like Best of Aerosmith, and then I bought a bunch of CDs all leading up to was it Kazaa first, then LimeWire.
I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are fully entrenched in that whole.
Oh yeah,
thing.
that was
Yeah.
Yeah, and now like I love the streaming services. I think they're great. Like I do think there's definitely some work to be done on the balance between the platforms and the artists.
Yeah,
and
for sure. Yeah.
Division there, but as a consumer, when I approach it from that angle, it's the best thing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And that's the reason, I guess, for releasing things digitally. I mean, I assume most of your audience is probably also coming from the same, like, this is how they consume music.
Yeah, I think so. It was, just kind of more, that was at least my perspective, was that's how I like to consume music, and I'm assuming that a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah.
I think, it's growing too, the number of people doing that. I mean, I'm still a Luddite. I'm still stuck in, I don't have Spotify or anything like that. Everything I listen to is physical. So records, tapes, CDs. And it's mainly because I have this massive collection of stuff. And the idea of either reobtaining it digitally or just scrapping all of it, I can't let go of it. So it's
absolutely,
yeah, it's just not, it can't happen. So I mean, I think there's a few people like that, but we're dwindling. Like we're dying out, I think.
But the value of those products will probably increase too. Like
maybe,
as they become more and more scarce.
Well, it also means that I can get CDs and tapes and things for super cheap at thrift stores and stuff now, because everyone's getting rid of everything. Like, it happened once with tapes when CDs became the thing, and now it's happening again with CDs, now digital. So I just can clean up.
I've always loved about CDs. It's just like opening up the booklet and reading the lyrics and going through. Like, you can get a more immersive experience. And with the vinyl, now I don't do this, but I do this with even music that I stream, just like sitting down and setting aside some time and listening.
Yeah,
it's so much cooler than just putting it on and while you're driving or working out and being super
just background.
Yeah. But then also from the artist perspective, we know that's how most people consume music.
Sure.
And even if it is CDs or whatever, it is a passive process for the majority of people. Yeah.
So how do you deal with that from an artistic perspective? Like you're saying, the liner notes and things, right? That used to be a huge part of putting together an album. So if you guys are working on something, how do you kind of replicate that digitally? Because those liner notes used to carry a lot of important information, right? I mean, not only just the credits of who played on the record, which is definitely important, but where it was recorded, who produced it, like who wrote the songs, which not just from like, oh cool, this is written by whoever, but that was often the way it still is for me to kind of find new music, because it's like you see a song on there, it's written by one guy who's different from all the other songs. It's a cover. Who originally wrote it? Then you kind of backtrack. Like, is there any way you can do that now with the digital thing, or is it all? Yeah,
there's metadata. You can do it, and then like Spotify just recently added that feature. I'm pretty sure, like in the past, I don't know. Don't quote me on this at all. Right, 6 months.
but I mean, do you think that it's? I feel like that kind of stuff's being overlooked by a lot of people. Like, aren't even bothering anymore. Like, is there anything you can do now to kind of reinforce that they need to look this shit up? You know what I mean?
I think so. We've got some really cool single art to go along with these pieces. We've done all the single art for all the songs that we've recorded, and it's an interesting way that once it all starts to come out, once a bunch of songs are out, people I think will start to get the larger picture with all of it and see the Easter eggs in it and the little nuances. I think that's a way that an artist can play with that sort of concept nowadays.
Sure. Visually, for sure. Like developing your visual assets, whether they're photos or
video or
curating your Instagram to know it'd be a certain aesthetic that you want to put out creatively, as opposed to just like, here's a collection of photos from the past 2 years.
Because they're like, here's me at this show, here's me at that show.
So between that and like, I always get really excited about the idea of like making more video content. We've made a little bit. Up to this point, but like I'm just excited about trying to explore that further and just like see what kind of creative rabbit holes we can go down with that.
Well, that's a totally different way than it used to be too, to share stuff. I mean, because people are going to watch a video way more than they're going to necessarily read an article about, as much as sad as that is, because they're both definitely beneficial, but it's just one click, here's the song, here's the whole vision right in your brain, right? So
absolutely,
it's kind of cool. Do you so I don't want to dwell on this whole streaming thing too much, but I just find it interesting because I've been doing this show for almost 6 years now, and the range of people I talk to could be like a 19-year-old or a 70-year-old, like depending who it is, and it's just everyone's view on it is so different. When it comes to releasing your songs that way, individually as singles, do you feel like it makes it difficult to kind of release a larger piece? I mean, say you're going to do an EP, but then you've already released, over the course of a year, 3 of the 4 songs from it or something. does that affect the kind of continuity of the larger product because it's all been released individually, over a longer period of time?
I think the appeal is different.
Yeah.
I think for the people that do want a disc, they will appreciate the fact that you go out and you do have a CD release party and you give them something that they can hold and put away
and look at the liner notes and all that stuff. Yeah.
But I don't know if they really suffer that much. Like I think there's a healthy ratio of how much you should put out in advance to if you do want to do a collection of songs. Like how much you put out in advance versus how many you're going to save for the disc. And as long as you're smart about that, I think people will be interested in consuming it both ways or not.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And I think that the album will always have its place in music culture.
Yeah, there'll be people who want to listen to something start to finish. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so much of the time it serves the experience of it. I mean, even just the Drake record that just came out that I've been listening to nonstop, like a guy who's in a genre that is very single driven and just released a 90-minute double album that tells this story, and it's cool to listen to the singles that I really like, but I'm like, I need to get that whole experience
and
right
actually,
now.
Same thing for me. Like, as much as I do love streaming, I've never really used any of the playlist features of it. I always just find all the albums that I like and just go into that, and I'll dive into that, a couple times, and then move on.
Mm-hmm. From a writing perspective, does it make it difficult just knowing that people probably aren't going to listen like that? I mean, if you're kind of the programming of the order of songs doesn't seem to matter as much anymore because people could have it on a shuffle, they could be part of a playlist. Like, does that affect the way that you are tailoring the individual songs, knowing that maybe they're not part of a whole and they're just...
I don't think for our thing it really does, because our songs are kind of concise and to the point as it is, and we
and they stand alone individually.
I think so. I mean, at this point we're not looking to go out and make a 10-minute epic or anything like that yet, so I'm very careful to say that. Trying to talk him into it for years.
Right. Well, I mean, you guys aren't like a prog band or anything that's going to do something like,
exactly.
Make a thing about vampires and dragons and shit, right? So, I mean,
that down.
Vampires and dragons and shit,
I already have a tattoo on my
Add dragons to the note.
But I don't want to lose that either, because there are like some great songs that are just like straight up the album intro or outro.
For sure.
I don't want to say that we won't ever.
No, exactly. And that's why I like I said, the album format is still very much alive. Like, you can if you put out the album, I mean, people are going to listen to the songs they want to listen to anyways. Why not give the people who really like you the full experience?
Sure.
And let them listen to the cool intro that you made. That's 30 seconds of white noise that for some reason sounds cool.
That works in context, but maybe isn't. Yeah, for sure.
I got it made. Ooh, babe, I got it made. I'm young, I'm fresh, I'm hot, I'm rockin' Rosane. So fucking sure you'll be screaming my name. You got it made. Ooh, babe, you got it made. It's hard to put my head down. It's hard to put my head down. You're lighting up this fire. You're lighting up this fire. And when your eyes are on me, and when your eyes are on me, I become the one only thing you deserve. Ooh, showtime, don't you know who I am? But I remind you in the palm of my head. See, I'm your man. Know who I am. Kiss my ring, the tone of your outdated phone. Try to call your girl, you'll reach the number to my home. You wanna go? Ooh, man, do you wanna go? It's hard to put my head down. It's hard to put my head down. You're lighting up this fire. You're lighting up this fire. And when your eyes are on me, and when your eyes are on me, I become the one
as a band that plays a more marketable type of music, again, you're not like playing harsh noise or something like that. Like, what is your eventual goal with this band? Like, where are you hoping to take it after you get more things released and more out there?
Yeah, as far as it can, to be honest.
Yeah. Just reaching as far as it could go, exactly.
Universe allows.
And I mean, again, like, it's kind of a little bit of...
Okay, here, would you like another beer?
I'm okay, actually,
You're good?
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, back to the conversation about not really falling into one niche rock sound.
Yeah.
It's one of those things too where you could listen to it and say it's very marketable and it's catchy and it's whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's still the gatekeepers of radio who have a lot of the time
multiple
really,
layers to get to
and really similar tastes to a lot of the playlist rock that's out there too. So it's kind of, on one part of my brain, I think that we're super marketable and we could do well, but on the other part, it's like, well, but who else can I even compare this to right now? I mean, there's long-standing bands that have always influenced us, like the Death from Aboves of the world,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Like that, who are obviously having great success right now. But I mean, outside of them, it's funny to look through a playlist and see names like that sometimes, even because it's right next to like
some 80s hair metal band or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There, you said it nicer than I would have. So.
Well, that's my main problem with rock radio, honestly, is that like there'd be like two songs from the 90s that I grew up liking, like some Soundgarden song or something, and then it's Motley Crue, and I'm like off.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like radio, for all of its like targeted listening and everything, and they're really focusing on certain things, they've missed the bus completely when grouping a whole bunch of age categories together, because the people who are into Motley Crue, they don't want to hear something that came out last year, and the people who grew up in the 90s don't want to hear Motley Crue, and then it's just
exactly.
But it's never seemed to change. Like, it's always just rock station.
Well, especially in Winnipeg.
It may be a factor of just the city being what it is. But I don't know. It's
there are a few diamonds in the rough.
Oh yeah.
In terms of stations. But yeah, I think like what's the most recent station?
There's always new ones.
99.1 has changed to being like 80s, and then like hits from the 80s, and then current hits. It's like, what? No, I don't want to.
You missed the whole section there.
I don't want to A/B this.
No, totally, exactly. Yeah. But again, I think that's also just a huge part of it being Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And for everything we love about it, there's the Motley Crue fans.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say not to shit on Motley Crue, but I'm quite happy to shit on Motley Crue.
That was his first concert.
Oh, is it really?
No, that was my second concert.
What was your first?
Ozzy Osbourne.
It's more respectable. A little bit.
A little bit. I really like Motley Crue, so don't respect me too much. Back then.
Right. When you this is kind of an interesting question that I like to ask people. When you guys were younger and you were starting to get into music, were there local bands that you were heavily into? Like, did you go to a lot of local shows, or is this a more recent thing for you?
Probably a more recent thing for me. I would hear the names on the radio a lot. Like, I would hear them talk about Jet Set Satellite, and the song would come on when I was being driven to school, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're
local,
cool big rock band, but they're from here.
Right.
But no, as far as actually going out to shows and experiencing these artists, it's been since we really started doing this and gained that appreciation for the work that goes into it, and the amount of love that an artist should receive for their work.
Yeah, my older sister, she's 5 years older than me, would take me out like as soon as I kind of hit 18.
Yeah.
So I didn't see too many localized before that, because there's not really that many venues that localized play even that are age.
No, not anymore. There used to be, like back in the mid 90s, there was tons of all ages shows, but it seems like that totally dried up.
Yeah, it definitely did. So once I was 18, a couple bands I remember was like the Liptonians were really cool.
Those guys.
And they were like kind of Beatles-esque.
Definitely more pop influence there. Yeah.
So I would just see, I go a few of their shows and like some of her boyfriends and whatever. And that just like really inspired me to make me like, oh, I want to do this. This is super cool. How do I get into this room? Right.
And I think that's kind of the point of the question too, is like, was there someone who kind of just turned the lights on, right? Like, oh shit, I can do this. I have a guitar, why am I not?
Actually, one of the first local bands that I would have seen was, I don't know how old it was, like about 12 or something, when Inward Eye played with the Who. And I had no idea that they're local guys, and now they're like pretty good friends.
They're all in different bands now too, right?
Yeah, they're in Attic Riots.
Right.
And Yeah, so it's cool to have gone from seeing them on like massive.
That's a huge stage, yeah.
to just like like doing a show with them.
They hang out, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, like I find that the local scene is so incestuous anyway that eventually everyone ends up in each other's bands. So even if it's someone you grew up watching, it's like one day you're probably going to be playing a show either with them or in the same band as them anyway. So
Absolutely.
so everyone just for such a big scene, it's so tight knit. It doesn't make sense, but like you can. Because I mean, I just in doing this show, I've had people on like 4 years ago, and then 3 years later, they're in a different band with 2 other guys that I had in other bands. So it's like, hey, I know you. It's weird.
It's weird how the puzzle comes together. Yeah.
For like a big city, supposedly big city, they're super small, especially.
Right. I think we're like just the right size for the arts scene and the music scene. Like it's also intertwined too. All those scenes, like going out to Fringe and seeing artists that I would never have seen this like clown street performer that I watched the other day.
Yeah.
But playing music somehow makes me feel like he's experiencing some similar things.
Right.
That I am.
Well, because you might have gone down to see some of the bands of the Cube, and there's this guy or something, right? And
exactly.
Yeah. So
shout out to that clown.
Yeah, the clown for sure. I should probably have him on here. So do you like coming into the local music scene? Like you were saying, it's more of a more recent thing for you. Did you feel it was very welcoming? Like, was there? I mean, did you kind of jump right into it and everyone was cool with you, or was there any kind of gatekeeping going on? Like,
I've never really experienced any kind of gatekeeping or anything like that. I mean, like the rock acts are all really tight with each other, but even beyond that scope, like everybody just loves what everybody's doing and supports it and encourages each other to get better all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is also super important.
It is.
Like,
it is.
As much as I love any of my friends for going out and trying to do what they love, they also all keep improving, and it's really inspiring for us.
And that's interesting to say about the rock scene too, because I mean, like some scenes are just like the punk scene, for example. It's even more incestuous than everything else. Like I mean, everyone's super tight knit, and everyone's in each other's bands, and everyone's super supportive. And again, rock being such a big umbrella genre that covers so many different things, it often seems like, I wonder if these guys even know each other. But yeah, it seems like there's definitely a growing community, not just a bunch of bands. Like it's with the Toba Rock Fest and stuff, and all these events.
To me, that's like a culmination of like all of that growth coming together for an event.
Yeah, it's super
really
cool.
Big group photo.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people. All those bands.
I'll bring my big selfie stick.
Cool. Well, if someone's hearing this and is hearing you for the first time, and this is their first introduction to you, what's the best thing for them to do to find out more? Like, where should they go to see videos, hear more music, keep track of when shows are happening?
For now, I would look us up on YouTube.
Okay.
The content that we have live and video content we've made is up there with some of our songs, and we'll have more stuff dropping. We'll have that new single coming out soon.
Yeah, and hopefully by the time this comes out, that'll be ready to drop. So
yeah.
Cool.
And then hopefully we're like talking about it in a weird, retrospective way right now.
Present but past, but future. Yeah.
So much success.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, something huge will have happened, and we'll have to go back in and edit some of the questions so no one notices. Yeah. But do you guys have a Bandcamp or anything like that, or a SoundCloud, or anywhere people can actually just check out some songs?
We're on SoundCloud too.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on SoundCloud. We the one single that we just released not long ago is on all the major streaming platforms, and there's going to be the other new one soon, and maybe some live stuff in the future too.
Cool.
So
stay tuned to all that.
Yeah.
If they're local people, especially, they check out our Facebook, Instagram. That's where we do our show promo.
Sure. And I mean, that's presumably the people listening are going to be local. It's the main audience. The main audience for this, as far as I can tell, is other local bands. Like more people who tell me they've heard the show are like they're in bands. So it's just like the community, slapping each other's backs. Everyone's talking with each other, which is kind of cool though. So
it is really cool.
Yeah. So people should check that out. Go to you guys are on social media everywhere as well, and check that out. I'll link to some of that in the show notes so people can at least find the YouTube page and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to hear more episodes of this show, you can go to witchpolice.com. At this point, there's 300 and some episodes. You can go back through the whole archive. If you really want to hear some bad episodes from 2012, you can do that. If you want to look through, I mean, a lot of the bands
thought the world was going to end. You're like, fuck it.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of the bands you guys have talked about and probably people who like your music also know are on there somewhere if you dig back through the archives. So, and by the time this comes out, there'll probably be more too, right? So this will also air on UMFM. They are a little behind on their schedule with our show. They picked up the show after it had been running for a few months. Yeah. So it's late July now. It might not air till November or something. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about that is it just gives like an extra boost to the episode and to the artist that's on the show. So it's always available to download whenever you want. But this is a kind of also on the radio. If you're listening at midnight on a Sunday,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You get the
yeah.
episode, so yeah.
What is?
Boost.
Oh, can I have a question?
Absolutely,
for you?
yeah.
What's your favorite like? This is what's your favorite podcast platform?
Like what I listen to podcasts on?
Yeah.
I just use the default iPhone one.
Okay.
And that's just because it's the default and it's already there, and because I can listen at double speed. I've started listening to podcasts at 2 times speed, and because I can just fit way
Game
more in. Right?
changer.
Yeah. I mean, so now if I listen to something at regular speed, even my own show, it seems super weird. Like it seems like it's like really, really slow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think I'm crazy to do that because it's fast. Like, But I now am fully able to comprehend everything at that speed.
You've evolved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speed too.
It's my favorite speed. So yeah, I mean, and you can get the show on any one of those platforms too. It's on it's on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, it's on Stitcher, Google Play, everything. And it'll be by the time this comes out, it'll be on Spotify too.
Awesome.
It's not yet at the time we're recording this, but it's happening soon. So
Yeah.
Sweet.
yeah,
Right
but
on,
yeah,
yeah.
that's the show. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks for having us.
having
Yeah.
All right, we'll shake hands on the air. That's right. Sounds good.
Absolutely. We are shaking hands
On an audio medium,
at our mansion.
Awesome.